There comes a moment in life when you realize that your strength alone is not enough. You try to hold everything together, but the more you grasp, the more things slip through your fingers. You fight battles in your mind, in your home, in your relationships, and in your heart. You do everything in your power to make things work, to fix what is broken, to carry the weight of responsibilities, fears, and expectations. But no matter how strong you think you are, eventually you reach a point where your strength is not enough. That is when you must remember God's hands are stronger than yours. The human tendency is to rely on self-sufficiency. From the moment we are born, we are taught to stand on our own, to take control, to push through hardships with our own willpower. But there will always come a time when life brings something too heavy for us to carry. It could be an illness that no doctor can fix, a betrayal that leaves you shattered, a financial burden that seems impossible to escape, or a deep emptiness in your soul that no success, no relationship, and no possession can fill. When you reach that place, you have two choices: to keep struggling under the weight, or to surrender it into the hands of the one who never grows weary. God's hands are strong enough to carry what you cannot. The Bible tells us in Isaiah 41:10, "Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." That means no matter what you face, no matter how weak you feel, His hands are mighty enough to sustain you. He is not like man. He does not grow tired. He does not become overwhelmed, and He does not fail. The same hands that created the heavens and the earth, the same hands that formed you in your mother's womb, are the hands that hold you even now. Some of you are carrying burdens that God never intended for you to carry. You spent years trying to control outcomes, trying to fix people, trying to manipulate circumstances in your favor. But the more you try to control things, the more out of control they become. That is because life was never meant to be carried on your own. God did not design you to walk through the storms of life in your own strength. He wants you to lay it all down at His feet, to release the burden and trust that His hands are capable of holding everything together. Think about a child holding on to something too heavy. No matter how much effort that child puts in, the weight is too much to bear. But the moment that child places it in the hands of a loving father, the struggle ends. That father who is stronger can carry what the child cannot. In the same way, your heavenly Father is waiting for you to stop struggling and place everything in His hands. It is not a sign of weakness to surrender to God. It is the greatest act of faith. The world tells you to keep pushing, to keep grinding, to never let go. But God says, "Be still and know that I am God." Psalm 46:10. He is asking you to trust Him, to release your worries, to stop fighting battles that belong to Him. You don't have to figure everything out. You don't have to carry the weight of tomorrow's problems. You don't have to pretend to be strong when you feel weak. God's hands are big enough, strong enough, and faithful enough to hold your life together, even when everything around you seems to be falling apart. When you truly understand the strength of God's hands, fear loses its grip. You stop living in anxiety over things you cannot control. You stop losing sleep over problems that are beyond your ability to solve. You stop running yourself into exhaustion trying to manage everything on your own. Instead, you learn to rest in the assurance that the same God who holds the universe in place is holding you too. God's hands are not only strong, but they are also gentle. They are the hands that lift you when you fall, the hands that wipe away your tears, the hands that reach out when you feel like you're drowning, They are the hands that break chains of bondage, the hands that open doors no man can shut, the hands that provide when resources are scarce. His hands are mighty to save, mighty to heal, mighty to restore. So why are you still carrying what you should have placed in His hands? Why are you still worrying about things that He has already promised to take care of? Why are you still exhausting yourself trying to fix what only God can fix? His hands are stronger than yours. His wisdom is greater than yours. His power is beyond anything you could ever comprehend. And the moment you choose to release your burdens into His hands, that is the moment you will finally find peace. Trusting God is one of the greatest challenges in life because it requires something most people struggle with: letting go. We hold on to our plans, our worries, our desires, and even our pain, thinking that if we just try hard enough, we can control the outcome. But real trust in God means releasing the grip we have on our own lives and placing everything in His hands, even when we don't understand what He's doing. Letting go is difficult because it goes against human nature. From an early age, we are taught to take charge, to work hard, to push through struggles, and to make things happen for ourselves. We are conditioned to believe that if we want something bad enough, we have to do everything in our power to get it. And while hard work and perseverance are important, there comes a point where our efforts reach their limit. That is when trust begins. When we recognize that no matter how much we try, there are some things only God can handle. Many people say they trust God, but in reality, they still try to control everything. They pray about their problems, but as soon as they finish praying, they pick those problems right back up and continue to worry about them. They ask God to open doors, but when things don't happen on their timeline, they start forcing doors open on their own. They say they surrender their lives to Him, but deep down they are afraid of what will happen if they truly let go. But trust is not just words, it is action. Trust means releasing control, stepping back, and allowing God to work in His own way and His own time. Letting go means accepting that you will not always have the answers. There will be moments when God asks you to walk by faith even when you cannot see where you are going. Abraham was asked to leave his home and go to a land that God would show him without knowing the destination. Peter was asked to step out of the boat and walk on water without knowing if he would sink. Time and time again, the Bible shows us that true faith requires action before understanding. God does not always reveal the full picture, but He calls you to trust Him enough to take the next step, even when it doesn't make sense. One of the biggest obstacles to letting go is fear. Fear whispers, what if God doesn't come through? What if things don't go the way I want? What if I end up worse off? Fear keeps people trapped in anxiety, trying to control every detail of their lives because deep down they are afraid of what will happen if they don't. But fear and faith cannot coexist. The moment you choose to trust God, fear loses its power over you. The moment you decide to let go, you begin to walk in the peace that only He can give. Letting go also means surrendering the past. Some people are holding on to pain, bitterness, and regrets, refusing to release them into God's hands. They replay past mistakes over and over again, wondering how things could have been different. They hold on to old wounds, refusing to forgive those who hurt them. But you cannot fully trust God while clinging to the things He is asking you to release. His healing can only begin when you let go of the things that are weighing you down. Trusting God also means surrendering the future. Many people are consumed with worry about what tomorrow will bring. They stress over finances, careers, relationships, and decisions, trying to plan every detail of their lives. But Jesus said, "Do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself. Matthew 6:34. When you trust God, you understand that He already knows what lies ahead. He is not just in control of today. He is in control of every moment that is to come. Your job is not to figure everything out. Your job is to trust the one who already has it figured out. Letting go is not giving up. It is choosing to believe that God's plan is better than yours. It is acknowledging that His wisdom is far greater than your understanding. It is resting in the truth that even when things seem out of control, He is still in control. It is surrendering your will, your desires, your fears, and your future into His hands, knowing that He will never fail you. There is a truth that every person must come to understand. God's plans are greater than ours. No matter how carefully we map out our lives, no matter how much effort we put into making things go our way, there will always come a moment when we realize that our plans are limited, but God's plans are beyond anything we could ever imagine. His ways are higher, His wisdom is deeper, and His vision stretches far beyond what we can see. People often struggle with this reality because they want to be in control. They want to dictate how things should go, when things should happen, and what the outcome should be. But life does not always unfold according to human expectations. Sometimes doors that seem perfect remain closed. Sometimes the opportunities we desperately want slip through our fingers. Sometimes things we never wanted come into our lives, changing everything. In those moments, it is easy to question God. It is easy to wonder why He allows certain things to happen. It is easy to doubt whether He is truly leading us. But faith is not about understanding every detail. It is about trusting that His plan is greater even when we don't see it. God's plans are not bound by human limitations. What looks like failure to us may be the foundation of something far greater. Joseph in the Bible had dreams of greatness, but instead of rising to power immediately, he was sold into slavery by his own brothers, falsely accused and thrown into prison. To the human eye, his life seemed like one disaster after another, but God had a plan. Every betrayal, every hardship, every painful moment was shaping him for the position God had prepared for him. If Joseph had been freed from prison too soon, he would have never been in the right place at the right time to interpret Pharaoh's dream and become second in command of Egypt. What seemed like a long, painful detour was actually the perfect path to his destiny. Many people make the mistake of measuring God's plan by their own timeline. They assume that if something does not happen when they expect it to, it must mean that God has forgotten them. But God is never in a hurry, and He is never late. His timing is precise, and His plan unfolds exactly as it should. There are seasons of waiting that serve a purpose. There are moments of delay that are actually acts of divine protection. There are times when what we want is not given to us because God has something far better in store. The job you didn't get, the relationship that ended, the opportunity that passed you by. What if those things were never meant to be part of your story? What if God was redirecting you to something that would bring far greater blessing than you ever imagined? God's plans are not only greater, but they are also designed for your good. Even when you walk through trials, even when you experience pain, even when things seem to be falling apart, God is still working behind the scenes. The Bible says in Romans 8:28, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. That means nothing is wasted. Every disappointment, every challenge, every unexpected turn is being woven into a plan that is far greater than anything you could design for yourself. The problem is that people often resist God's plan because it does not match their own. They cling to relationships that God is asking them to release. They chase after dreams that God never intended for them to pursue. They fight against change because they are afraid of the unknown. But surrender is the key. When you stop resisting, when you stop trying to force your own way, when you finally let go and trust that God knows what He is doing, that is when you will begin to see His plan.